So in this module, we'll talk about uh, how the data is evolving, the evolving world of data, the services in the Azure data platform, the tasks that will be performed by a data engineer, and we'll talk about the case studies. Module 2 talks about how can we store the data. So we'll talk about how to store data, which service we should use. We have different services where we can store data. We can store data inside the storage account. Inside storage account, we can store 4 types of data. We can store an unstructured data, blob data. We can put file share, NFS or SMB file shares. We can have the NoSQL database. Let's say we want to deploy a database that is not SQL in nature. So we would be able to deploy a NoSQL database. And third is we can have a queue storage. And apart from this, we can also store data inside the data lake storage. The benefit of storing data in data lake storage is we can give the ACL, the access control list, at a file level, at a folder level. And we can do the authentication with the help of Azure Active. So authentication and authorization will be done in the Azure Active Directory. So that is how we would be able to store data. Module 3, enabling team-based data science with Azure Databricks. So in this, we'll talk about the Databricks. How can we make use of Azure Databricks? How can we make use of Azure, or we can say Apache Spark notebooks? We'll talk about these parts. This is the course content. So in module 3, we'll talk about what is Databricks, how the Databricks works, how can we read data from Azure Databricks, how can we do the transformation, so how can we do ETL with the help of Azure Databricks. So we'll talk about the Databricks majorly in this module. So ETL is we can extract the data, then we can transfer the data, and then we can load the data. So how can we perform ETL? We'll talk most about the same. Then module 4 talks about how can we have a globally distributed database. Let's say we want to have a highly scalable database and we want the database to be globally distributed. Means we can access the same database from US, we can access the same database from Middle East, and we can access the same database from India and from Australia. So how can we go with a globally distributed database? So there is a very good service in Azure called as Cosmos DB. With the help of Cosmos DB, we can go with the NoSQL database. Basically, we will get 5 APIs for the same. We get API for the table, we get API for the graph, Gremlin, Cassandra, MongoDB. So we get multiple APIs, with the help of which we would be able to query the database. So in this, it talks about how to create Azure Cosmos DB database, how to insert and query the data into the same, how to build an .NET Core application, and how to connect that with the Azure Cosmos DB. Where we will be creating this .NET application, maybe we can use Visual Studio. Visual Studio is the IDE which we can use in order to build the application. And how can we distribute the database globally? So all this part we'll talk in module. Then module 5 will talk about working with relational database. Let's say maybe you don't want to go with NoSQL database. Maybe you wanted to have a SQL database. So how can we make use of Azure SQL database service? How can we make use of Azure Snap Analytics? So we'll talk about the same in module 5. In module 6, we'll talk about the real-time analytics. So how can we do the analysis? When we store data, whether it's semi-structured, unstructured, or relational, mostly it is in a format which has no meaning. So how can we make it a meaningful data? How can we stream that to the on-premise? Maybe we are using some sort of a solution on-premise. So in this, we can stream it to the on-premise with the help of Event Hub. We can make Azure Stream Analytics in order to stream the data. So in this, we'll talk about the data streaming and the data analysis. So it says explain data streams, event processing. How can we ingest data with the help of Event Hub? How can we process data with the help of Stream Analytics jobs? So it talks about this. Module 7 talks about orchestrating data movement with Azure Data Factory. What is Azure Data Factory? What are pipelines in the Azure Data Factory? What does Azure Data Factory do? How can we transform the data? So it talks about all this. Module 8 talks about how can we secure the data platforms. So if we are putting a lot of data, maybe inside data lake storage, maybe inside storage account, maybe inside Cosmos DB. How can we secure it? How can we go with the advanced threat detection? How can we make use of keyword? How can we make use of service endpoint? How can we make use of private endpoint? So what are different things by which we would be able to secure it? Introduction to the security, key components that will be involved in the security, securing storage accounts and data lake storage, securing data source, securing streaming data. That is what we will do. And last but not the least, the ninth module talks about monitoring and troubleshooting. We'll be doing monitoring in this. What are the monitoring capabilities? Common data storage issues, common data processing issues. How can we manage a disaster? So how can we create a BCDR, a business continuity disaster recovery site? Module 9 talks about that. So this is all what we will be covering.
Okay.
This is all what we will be covering in this particular.
So I didn't see the some of the services. For example, Azure Logic app or Function app. Those are also services to do with the data engineering for data orchestration and management, right? Are you is like training of those services not included in the syllabus, or
basically the services that you mentioned is you want some information on Logic app and Function app. Any other service apart from this?
This is the only two that I can think of right now, going through the document with you. Because, like, for example, right now I have a task. They create a workflow using Logic app, ADF, and we loaded data back to SQL server.
So although these services are not a part of this, but absolutely we can cover.
Part of what?
These services are not a part of this particular course. They are not a part of the data engineering course, but we can certainly cover that. We can cover that. We can cover, see, Function app and Logic app, they are serverless computing. It is the computing which we refer as serverless. Serverless means whenever you are actually going to run the application code, then only you have to pay. Now, within the application code, you can write anything. Maybe you want to transform the data. Maybe you are saying whenever anyone is uploading something into your storage account, you want the Function app to be triggered and it should convert that data maybe into a transaction, and it should store that transaction inside a SQL database. So we can do that with the help of Function. So whenever there will be any blob that gets uploaded inside a storage account, it will be acting like a trigger for the Function app. So we can do that. Now, what is Logic app? Logic app is an orchestration workflow. With the help of Logic app, we can write the entire workflow. So although these services are not a part of this course, but we can definitely include this into this particular course. Do it.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. And okay, so how we are going to proceed? Like, what is the plan right now? What is the next step?
I think next step would be you have to first enroll with Amit. So once the enrollment part will be done, we can decide a schedule. Along with the enrollment, you would be able to tell Amit what is the schedule that suits you the best. You want to spend every day 1 or 2 hours, or you want to spend 3 to 4 hours in weekends, right? So either we can spend like every day, maybe within a week, we can spend 3 to 4 days. Within a week, within working days, we can spend 3 to 4 days, and every day we can spend like 1 to 2 hours. Or if you want to go with weekends, then every weekend we can spend in between 2 to 3 hours. So whatever suits you the best, accordingly you would be able to provide the information. You can enroll with them, and then we can start as per your schedule.
Yes, I think the dividing by 3 weekdays would work better for me. 3 weekdays.
3 weekdays. No problem. So we can set on 3 weekdays, maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday. or Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, we can figure it out. And
Yeah, we can figure out that.
we can figure it out, and then we can start discussing regarding the same.
Mhm.
Any questions, any queries, anything so far? Any technical queries?
Right now, at the moment, so is that gonna be like hands-on training, or like are we eventually go into environment and work in the environment, or is that gonna be like slide shows only, like explaining the theoretical information?
So what best we can do is we can explain it theoretically, and then we can show you a demonstration on the Azure board. How are we going to implement those things that we have discussed theoretically? We do not have any data available with us, so that would not be possible for us. But yes, demonstration will be a part of the training. So a lot of demonstrations will be there during the training.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So give me 2 days.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna think about it, and we can proceed the enrollment study. And would you like to add anything on top of this? Any other details that I need to know?
I think that would be all from my end. So once you enroll it, we can start we can start the technical discussions. And as in when you have any query during the technical discussion, we can take it. So I think we are good as
Okay. Okay, sounds good, Jitin. Amit.
So I'm stopping the sharing from the screen. Thank you very much for giving us your valuable time. You can take like 1 or 2 days, and then maybe you would be able to update on it, and we can take it forward from there.
Okay, sounds good. We can do that.